What's up guys, Intelitech Studios here, and today we're going to be doing the full in-depth review of the Bissell PowerLifter Bagged Pet. This particular example is model 2119 and was manufactured in 2019, at least if I remember correctly. So, this particular machine was recently requested for a review, and this is actually, funnily enough, a machine that I've been recommending to people for quite a few years now, and that's definitely not for no reason, as I'll explain in this review. But I had never actually gotten around to doing a standalone review for this particular machine, until now that is. Now, obviously, I didn't have this machine at my new house, so I'm actually back at my dad's house where a lot of my collection resides to do the review of this machine and compare it to other machines on the market and machines in Bissell's previous lineup, so we can see if this is something that you should consider for your anywhere from $80 to $150, depending on where you can find this and what deals may exist. So, starting off with the backstory, this basically, for all intents and purposes, is a Bissell Power Force, the standard $50 bagged Walmart special vacuum, but just with some extra little upgrades and nice little features and add-ons, just to make it a little bit of a more premium and well-rounded device. So, as you can see, the main structure of the vacuum is nearly identical to its Power Force contemporary, and yeah, that definitely is a good thing because the Power Force is the machine that I recommend the most if you, for whatever reason, need a new vacuum right now and cannot spend more than 50 or 60 bucks on a vacuum. This is the one that I always recommend for many, many reasons that I will go into right now. Specifically, the bags. A machine like this in this budget price range should be purchased as a bagged unit, because bagless machines in this price range, while they do compare relatively well in terms of performance and all of those, basic metrics that most people would consider, one aspect where bagless machines in this price range do not measure up, and that is filtration. In fact, in almost every price category, bagless vacuums do not do as well when it comes to filtration. Not to mention that maintenance on a lot of bagless machines in this price range is going to be much more difficult and just much more time consuming than a standard bagged unit. Because when you have a machine like the PowerForce Helix, like the Helix Turbo, like the PowerForce Compact, and like a lot of other machines in this price range from other brands like Eureka and Dirt Devil, we see a lot of issues as far as the filters needing to be maintained and a lot of customers just not wanting to deal with it. And as someone who's been fixing these machines for the past 15 years, I can say that many customers are frustrated with how they deal with their bagless machines. They don't want to actually go through the effort of maintaining their filters because a lot of times you have to wash those filters after every use, or at a minimum every few uses every time you fill up the bin or clean your entire house. A bagged machine like this is going to be much easier to maintain, and it's also going to be cheaper in the long run. Because not only does a bag machine have better filtration, which means you'll be breathing better, especially if you get HEPA bags, which I'll cover in a minute, but you'll also have a much lighter weight machine because there's no bagless cylinder that you have to worry about. A machine that's more versatile because the bagged chamber is not going to stick out from the machine as much as a bagless system would, so it's easier to get underneath low furniture and to carry the machine around. And also much more hygienic because you're not touching the dirt that you're dumping out. Now, a lot of people say maybe there's a way that you can empty a bagless machine and have it be sanitary, but the truth is you're going to be getting dust all over the place. And if you're perfectly okay with dealing with that, then sure, maybe go for a bagless machine instead. But I think for most people, a bagged is a better option, especially because I've actually reviewed the bagless version of this machine, which is the PowerLifter Swivel Pet, and that particular machine is a step down from this machine in absolutely every way. Because at least the Power Force and the Power Force Bagless are very similar in terms of feature parodies. They are very similar machines, with the main difference being bagged or bagless. The Swivel Pet, while you do get a swivel neck on that machine compared to this, it's generally going to be a lot more expensive, and maybe not a lot more, but when you're talking about how little budget this machine costs, then obviously the little differences do add up. But also, the swivel neck is very prone to breaking. Those machines are very prone to feeling cheap and not actually being as good build quality as these machines, and not lasting as long either. So if you are deciding between the bagged version, the PowerLifter Bag Pet, or the bagless version, the PowerLifter Swivel Pet. Stop this video right now and go get the PowerLifter Bagged Pet, because the bag version is going to be so much better. Because, again, the filtration is going to be better, the build quality is better, the machine's going to last a lot longer. It's just going to be overall a much better experience. And I'm specifically discussing all of that out of the gate because otherwise this machine is very similar to a lot of other machines in Bissell's lineup, especially around this price range. But one thing that you do get, well, actually there's quite a few things that you get that are a good upgrade from the Power Force, because the Power Force only has a 23-foot cord. This has a 30-foot cord, so you're going to have a lot more cord length. It's going to be a lot better to deal with as far as you won't have to unplug and plug back in more often, or in some cases people just simply don't have enough outlets to actually plug in and deal with a short cord anyways without using an extension cord. And obviously extension cords are not recommended on vacuum cleaners. So if you need a longer cord, this is a good upgrade. Another reason that it's an upgrade is you get the turbo brush. Now, the turbo brush is good as far as actually cleaning sort of hair off of upholstery and stairs and a lot of that other things like that. But I will say, this turbo brush, and this is the same on a lot of Bissells in this price range, this turbo brush is not that good as far as quality goes. If you get something like a Hoover Elite Rewind Plus, or a lot of other machines that have turbo brushes in this price range, those turbo brushes will be of a lot better quality. And another thing is that if you have an older style Bissell bagged vacuum, like the Bissell PowerGlide Platinum, which is basically what this PowerLifter Pet directly has replaced in the Bissell lineup, if you're coming from one of these and you're thinking about upgrading, maybe you have the PowerGlide Platinum, maybe you have the PowerTrack, maybe you simply have an older Power Force that has these features, then you want to keep in mind there are going to be some differences. Now, the cord length is the same, and the hose is almost as good, so there's not that many differences there. But one thing is that this has a HEPA filter, so the actual exhaust air, or at least the exhaust air that's going through the HEPA filter, is going to be better on the older units. Another thing it has is a headlight and a bag change indicator, which are nice little features that these newer machines, regardless of price range, unfortunately do not have. You also get 2 extra height adjustments on the older PowerGlide Platinum, which I'm sure for most people probably isn't a big deal, but if you have a very specific style of carpet that you find very difficult for vacuums to adjust to properly, then that may be another dissuader if you're thinking about upgrading. But the thing is that there really isn't much in the Bissell lineup that is close to parallel to this machine. So as long as you're actually looking at vacuums in today's current lineup, both from Bissell and from other brands, then this is a solid option. Now, one of the other machines that I also recommend for a bagged unit in this price range is the Hoover Wind Tunnel T-Series Tempo. And one of the things that I will say about this is that if you can get this for around $80 to $100, this is an excellent value. But Bissell's MSRP on their website for this machine is usually around $150. And for that price, I would say you should get the Hoover product instead, because that Hoover product actually does have the headlight, and it does have a couple other little features that it has specifically regarding to build quality that will be a little bit better. That will make the machine heavier. So if you actually don't care as much about build quality because you're nice on your machines and you're not really worried about it too much, and you want the lighter weight, then this is definitely a better option. And one area where this actually is built better than the Hoover is the handle. The handle is actually very sturdy and not going to go anywhere, unlike the PowerLifter Swivel Pet that I previously mentioned, where that handle is very loose and does not feel like it's built properly. At least not on my particular unit. It did not feel like it was manufactured properly. The tolerances seem to be way too thin on that machine. This machine, however, no issues with that whatsoever. So since I touched on the turbo brush, I will say that while this turbo brush doesn't work as well as the newer turbo brushes, or as the older turbo brushes, I should say, the actual connector is the same as a lot of older Bissells. So if you want to just go on eBay and grab one of the older style turbo brushes, it will work on this machine, and it will work a lot better than the one that actually comes with it. And there's a lot of other turbo brushes that are kind of a similar style with similar logos. If it looks like this, it's the old style turbo brush, and it will work just fine with this machine. So another attachment this machine comes with is this pet hair eraser tool. Now this tool looks really cool. What it is it's basically just like a little felt thing that you can use to clean up pet hair, and then you can move this little rotating bit back and forth in order to basically scrape off the pet hair into the suction path. I found this machine is not, or this particular attachment is not all that useful. It definitely is a little bit annoying to use, and it doesn't feel like it gives you that much as far as pet hair pickup. So it is a nice little addition, but it's definitely not the best attachment considering, what it is. It definitely is a neat idea, but I think Bissell does need to work a little bit better on this attachment as far as making it actually work better. And I have used this plenty of times before, and it's just a bit awkward to use, and it's kind of difficult to figure out what the actual purpose of this attachment really is. I mean, obviously it's supposed to be like a lint roller that you can then clean off with suction, but again, it's a little bit of a miss. But as far as the other attachments that this machine comes with, again, sorry if this review is all over the place, but you get the same attachments that you get with a lot of other Bissells in this price range. So you get a little dusting brush. So this dusting brush is not too bad. It's more so of an upholstery brush. The bristles are a little bit too stiff to be a dusting brush, but, they're definitely passable. This is the kind of thing where I wouldn't recommend dusting anything that's too delicate, but if you're just doing the normal sort of dusting, if you're dusting off like a table or a lampshade or blinds, something like that, it'll work okay. It's definitely not as good as the dusting brush that comes with the newer Hoover Elite Rewind Plus, the blue model, which I've done a review on in the past. That dusting brush is a lot better. And this dusting brush is better than the Wind Tunnel T-Series Tempo that I mentioned, which is kind of annoying because you would think that would come with the new brush, but unfortunately it hasn't been updated with that brush as of yet, so this brush is still better than that particular unit. So that, of course, snaps right in. And, of course, the older units had like a combination tool. This definitely is better than that, so that's nice. And then you also get a crevice tool and an extension wand. So we can see this extension wand is not very long at all. And also, there's just a straight hose attachment. There's no extra extension wand. So if you need to do a lot of above floor cleaning and you're doing a lot of, just reaching all the way up and you have very high ceilings, you're likely going to need to purchase more of these extensions in order to get the proper amount of cleaning length. Otherwise, you may find that this extension and crevice tool may not be adequate. So you do get a really nice crevice tool. This is very similar to the older style Bissell crevice tools, and it works just as well. So that is definitely nice. You do get a decent quality set of attachments. They're not that much of an upgrade over the old style Power Force, but the price also isn't that much more than the old style Power Force anyways. So, that's something that you just kind of deal with. And again, the hose is nicer than the older Power Force. We can see right here, the hose does appear to be a little bit longer, but the difference is mostly negligible. So that is that. You have a foot-mounted power switch right here. Now, some other machines in this price range may have side-mounted power switches or handle-mounted power switches, so just keep that in mind. If you are a fan of these foot-mounted power switches, then great. You got the switch right there. You can just step on it and easily go. But if you want a power switch that's mounted on the handle, then again, this may not be the best option. So looking at the serial plate, we can see when this unit was made. Okay, so actually this was made in 2020, as you can tell, and it's a little bit dusty there because I haven't touched this machine in a while. Now again, we have our 5 height adjustments. We have our brush roll right here. This is actually a really nice brush roll. It has a couple different styles of bristles. It cleans very, very well, and it definitely does have really good cleaning performance, especially for what this machine is. So cleaning performance is a little bit better on this than the cheaper Power Force. So you actually do get something as far as cleaning performance as an upgrade from the other unit, which definitely is nice. It's not, enough to where I would say you have to buy this over this if you don't need the features, but it does have that extra brush roll, which it does actually work very well. The other thing that you have to keep in mind is that some machines in this price range, as far as the $150 price range, actually do have lifetime belts or belts that don't stretch out as easily. This one does have a rubber belt, so you will have to replace the belt every once in a while. Depending on your usage, you may have to replace this belt every 6 months to a year, But keep that in mind. You do have to replace this belt once in a while, so if you really want a machine with a lifetime belt, again, that could be a deterrent. I personally don't mind replacing a belt on vacuums, so that's not really anything that's been keeping me from recommending the machine, but just keep that in mind. If you don't mind, if you want to save the money and you don't mind having to replace belts, then this is still a good option. Now, as far as looking onto, and slamming the handle right on the floor, so we can see the aforementioned brush roll. So it is a very nice brush roll, and the entire base comes off with just a few screws, so it's very easy to change a belt on this machine. Now, one thing that is a bit annoying is that the swivel variant that I mentioned that I think you should buy this instead of, this doesn't have any sort of squeegee on the bottom of this, so this isn't really recommended for hard floors. This brush roll is the kind of brush roll where you can get away with hard floors a little bit better than the Power Force, but again, if you're vacuuming up a lot of debris on hard floors, this will definitely scatter the debris. So I would say if you want to use this on hard floors, I would recommend getting a hard floor attachment for it. And since this doesn't use a standard fitting, it will be a little bit harder to find a hard floor attachment, but you can always get an adapter for it. This is still a common enough fitting because Bissell's been around for quite a while. So if you want to use this on hard floors, I'd recommend getting a hard floor attachment and possibly an extra extension wand, but you can definitely essentially use it on hard floors like it was a canister. But again, keep in mind, stretch belt, so the brush roll will continue spinning even if the machine is upright or if you are using it on hard floors, so there's no brush roll shut off because again you have just a standard belt. So just keep that in mind. If you are worried about that, then that may be a deterrent from getting this machine. But again, for me, I only ever use these vacuums anymore specifically for carpet because I have other machines that are dedicated for hard floors anyways. So for me, that's not a big deal, but that may be a big deal for you. But just keep that in mind that, you know, it's not going to be perfect as far as hard floors, but the carpet performance, and it will at least, you know, it'll be somewhat passable on hard floors, at least compared to some other things in this price range. But again, there are sometimes better options out there. So it really just depends on that. But if you primarily need a vacuum for hard floors, then I would say this might not be the pick unless you are okay with going out of your way and spending more money on attachments to make this work better on hard floors. So now, finally, there's a carrying handle right on the front right here. This machine is very lightweight. It's very easy to maneuver. Now, obviously, it's not as light as the Power Force because there's more materials going into the extra features this machine comes with, but it is lighter than a lot of other machines like the Wind Tunnel and the Tempo. So if you are comparing this to other machines, this is lighter than that, but it's obviously not going to be as light as like an Auric or something. This machine's basically about 14, 15 pounds, and this machine is about 12 pounds, so just keep that in mind. Now, as far as accessing the bag, if you're wondering how to change the bag on this machine, there is a little lever right here that you just pull, and then the bag door pops right off, and then you have access to the bag right here. Now, it's a very just kind of a classic old-style bag. There's just a little collar right here that you just simply, you can just wiggle the bag off just like that. And then whenever you want to put the bag on, you can see the plastic collar right there. And again, you just take the collar and just push it right back on. It fits very easily. Now, there's a lot of different bags you can get for this machine. I recommend these CleanView bags. These are HEPA bags. One reason why I love recommending this machine is because the bags are so cheap. Because a lot of those filters you buy in a lot of bagless machines may be 10, 20 bucks, and you might have to replace those filters every year or so, depending on how often you use the machine, or if you just don't feel like washing it. These bags, you can get 20 of these bags for $18, and these bags easily last about a month at a time, potentially even more, depending on how often you use the machine. So you can do the math right there. That's a very long time before you have to buy bags again, and that's a very good deal. And also, these HEPA bags are great because you have so much better filtration than any bagless machine in this price range, and you also don't have to touch the dirt. And also, while these bags don't self-seal, my little tip is if you're worried about a little bit of dust blowing out of the bag collar whenever you pull it off, just whenever you pull off the bag, just take a piece of tape and just slap it on the end of the collar, on the end of the hole right here, and then bam, the bag is sealed, and you can easily throw it away without getting dust all over your house, and it's a much more hygienic solution to actually disposing of the dirt in your vacuum cleaner. So another thing is there's a little pre-motor filter right here. So generally speaking, you don't have to worry about this. Unlike on a bagless machine where you have to watch this very frequently and it's going to leak a lot of dust into the motor, this basically only needs to do anything if you basically blow up a bag or forget to run the machine without a bag, then that's basically where that will step in, and it will basically just get anything, so that way it protects the motor. But honestly, if you keep your bags maintained, if you replace these every time it gets full, and especially if you use a HEPA bag, you're never going to have to clean that filter, realistically. Because I've had these machines, I've had some of these machines that I've used for 10, almost 20 years, and never once had to clean that filter. It was always just spotless, perfectly clean. And again, definitely not something you have to worry about, or definitely not a luxury that you have, as far as bagless goes. So you can see that. And then of course, to put the bag door right back on, you just slide it into the little tab right there, push it against this, and just snap it right in place. Okay, well, maybe it's hard to do on camera, but obviously you got to make sure that you're not pinching the bag on it. So sometimes, again, I don't have my tripod with me. Sometimes what I do is I just grab the bag like this and then just set it in a little slot like right there. And then it'll just easily snap right back into place. Obviously, you want to make sure you don't catch the bag on the sides or anything like that. But other than that, there's really nothing to worry about. So yeah, that is the biggest reason why I recommend this machine and why I think it's an excellent value for the price. So I think I've covered pretty much everything that you would realistically need to know about this. I did make a video on how to replace the belt, if you're wondering how to replace the belt on this machine. And so that is definitely there in case you need to do that. And beyond that, there's really not much other maintenance that you would really have to worry about. So one thing that I don't like about this machine, compared to a lot of new Bissells, is that the post motor filter is not accessible by the user. So that's very unfortunate. So if you want to replace this filter, definitely don't do it yourself. I would say take it to any sort of local Bissell authorized service center, because otherwise you have to completely tear the machine all the way down to the motor. And if you're not prepared to do that, then that may be a bit of a daunting task. But that is something that you can do. The entire thing comes apart with screws, so it is very easy to take apart. And all the screws are basically the same size on the entire machine, so you're not going to have to worry about getting screws mixed up. So that's another thing that I really love about these machines, is that as a vacuum tech, they are so easy to work on. They're so inexpensive. And again, if people would just be buying these machines instead of the bagless ones, then yeah, they're so much easier to maintain. And, there's all that too. And if for whatever reason you don't want HEPA bags, there's the Febreze bags as well if you want a nice little scent while you vacuum. Although, for me, I would rather just get the HEPA bags, and then if you want the Febreze scent, just spray Febreze after you vacuum. But that is also an option too if you want that as well. So if you do get just the basic bags, those will still work just fine, and the filtration will still be much better than the bagless machine, but it's not going to be amazing. Whereas with these HEPA bags, they are excellent filtration for the price, and especially in these machines, there's no machine that'll give you better filtration for the price than one of these machines with HEPA bags in it. So again, I'll link bags in the description so that way you can see. They're not always in stock. In fact, this machine also, unfortunately, isn't always in stock. But I will link it, and hopefully whenever it is in stock, you can see if you want to get one of these. So yeah, I can't really think of much else that I want to say about it. I think I covered everything. Sorry for the different points about the machine just being in a different sort of a random order. So hopefully this wasn't too confusing. But anyways, the last thing we're going to do is just give this machine a quick run. So a couple other things that I forgot to mention is that this also has a quick release cord hook. There's no cord rewind or anything like that, but you do get a little quick release cord hook. You do get a cord clip right here to keep the cable out of the way. And this machine also uses an 8 amp motor, so it will use less power than a lot of 12 amp motors out there. So while it might not be quite as powerful, it's certainly enough to get the job done. And you do have that little extra bit of power. So if you vacuum very often, then you may notice a little bit of a difference on your electric bill. Probably not a lot, but it is there. So with that out of the way, we're going to give this a quick run. yeah, so that was the full in-depth review of the Bissell PowerLifter bagged pet, bagless, or not bagless, the Bissell PowerLifter bagged pet upright vacuum cleaner. And I hope you enjoyed this video. And this review also would apply pretty much equally to, there is a CleanView bagged pet as well, which is entirely identical to this machine, only it's black and green instead of gray and purple. And the only difference is that that machine, instead of coming with the little pet hair eraser tool, it comes with like a pet crevice tool or some kind. So that's really the only difference. And I don't believe that crevice tool stores on board, by the way. So if you have one of those machines and you're wondering why the crevice tool won't fit into the wand, that's why. That one probably won't fit on board. But again, I can't confirm that because I don't have one. But yeah, so they're basically the same machine. So if you're trying to decide between the two, I mean, personally, I choose this one just because I like the purple, but that's just me. So yeah, this is Intelitech Studios signing out. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it very helpful. Oh, another thing that I forgot to mention, or at least I might have mentioned it earlier in this review. So as far as my recommendation on this machine, if you can find this for $100 or less, get it. It is an excellent option, and it's definitely one of the machines that I recommend in that price range. If you can't find it for like under the $150 that Bissell normally asks for it, I would say probably get the Hoover instead, the Hoover T-Series Tempo that I mentioned instead, unless, changing a belt and the little sort of lesser weight doesn't bother you, then maybe you could go with this as an alternative if you like the color scheme or you like it being more lightweight or whatever the reason. But otherwise, I would say in general, for if these two were the same price, if both this and that Hoover were $150, I would say go for the Hoover because you get the headlight and some of those other features. But if it's cheaper than that, if it's like $110, $100 or so or less, I would say this is an excellent option, and I definitely can recommend it. I mean, unless perhaps if you don't need the longer cord or any of the extra attachments or anything like that, and you would probably, and you're wanting to spend $100 on a vacuum, and let's say you have 2 stories and you don't care about, again, the extra features, maybe just get 2 of the Power Forces instead. Maybe you'd be better off spending your money on getting 2 of those instead of one of these. But I think for most people, if you're looking for an all-around vacuum, then I would say spending the double and getting those extra features, that's something that I would do. If I was looking for a machine, I would spend that extra little bit of money just to have those extra features, those extra little creature comforts, like the attachments, the cord, and all those other things. Mainly the cord. That's sort of the biggest thing for me, is the cord and the wider cleaning path. So, anyways, this is Intelitech Studios signing out. Hope you finally enjoyed this review after it being delayed for so long. And again, I apologize for being all over the place. So, sorry if this review wasn't as organized or concise. I'll try to make the other reviews a little bit more organized and a little bit more, sort of consistent, so I'm not jumping all over the place as far as different things on the vacuum. So, anyway, guys, this is the PowerLifter Bagged Pet. I certainly recommend it, and this is Intelitech Studios signing out, and I'll see you guys in the next video. I hope you all have a good one. Peace.